Okay, so I got some stuff to paint today. I kind of just decided at the last minute that I'm going to paint. I'm going to try and at least put the base coat onto this chair today. So when I painted some of the other doll furniture that I've done, I got requests to paint things to sell. And then I found this chair at the thrift store. I don't even know how long it's been sitting in my closet. It was pre-2020. So it's been sitting in there kind of a while, just waiting for me to get to it. So I'm going to put a base coat on that before I even get started on the figurines today, I think. Just going to sand off. There's a little bit of residue. This clearly had some foam letters stuck to it. So I'm going to sand off the little residue so that we'll have a nice smooth base. Looking over really quick to see if there's any other areas that need a quick sanding before I start. The rest of it looks good, so throw the base coat on and then set it aside so I can do my other painting while I wait for it to dry. So put my camera up a bit. My camera, which is refusing to focus on whatever I pointed at today. It's focusing on everything else. Oh, my background music is stuttering. My string seems to be doing okay. My background music is not. Also turn it down just a bit. Unfortunately, I can't turn it all the way off because since it's playing through my laptop and I have to use my laptop microphone because I don't have a good functional pair of headphones, the microphone also picks up the music. But it does seem to at least be picking up my voice this week as opposed to last week when I just gave up on streaming because between the stream quality not being high enough and OBS just not wanting to capture my voice over the music, I kind of just didn't feel like it. I was having a really bad day and OBS wasn't cooperating, so I didn't end up doing an art stream last week. But I still ended up doing 2 streams because I bought Little Misfortune and did 2 game streams instead. I think I did 2 streams last week. Yeah, because I did Thursday and Friday. So I don't know if it's really showing on the camera. I'm basically using the seat of the chair as a palette while I paint. Since I'm going to be painting the whole thing black, I don't have to use a space on my palette, although I do have 2 clean palettes this week. I'm semi-prepared. Some weeks I don't even have one, so I think it's a step in the right direction. This isn't going on quite as nicely as I had hoped. It has kind of a rough finish just from age, and I guess I was kind of hoping that it was rough enough that the paint would go on and I wouldn't have to pre-sand it, but I think, I don't know. We'll see. Once the base coat dries and I try to put a second coat on, if it's just wiping the first coat off, then I'm going to have to go over the whole thing and sand it. That is usually one of the benefits of painting vintage furniture, is it's usually kind of worn, so you don't always need to go over it and sand it really well, even if it has been stained and finished. In fact, the rougher the shape the finish is in when you start, the better. You can kind of tell it's probably going to need to be sanded in places because it's just not going on smoothly, which is a little disappointing. But I'm still going to try and do it without sanding, just because sanding a piece like this is kind of a pain. Because it has all of these little knobbly details carved into it. And sanding without damaging any of those means you're going to have to sand slowly. I tend to be sort of more rough and quick with my sanding whenever I can be, because I don't really like sanding. It's not the most exciting step of the process. It's kind of hard on my hands. You just brush on a clear coat of matte varnish over this, over the base coat, rather than sanding, because it looks like, for the most part, the paint is taking pretty well. It's just a few areas, really, that are a little too smooth, which is fine. It's kind of to be expected with vintage furniture that it's not going to wear out perfectly evenly. Especially on areas like in here, where obviously you're not really going to be handling it very often, even if it's being used as a play piece and not a display piece. Like you're not really going to grab that little section of the chair frequently, so it's not going to get as worn down as like the sides here. So those areas I think are going to be where I need to put the matte coat, the matte varnish, I mean. I'm hoping that'll help me be able to skip sanding. Probably should have done that first, to be honest. Or even sprayed it. I was spraying stuff out there earlier with, not MSC, but, Tester's Dull Coat. I was spraying, a couple of the figurines that I did finish because I want to put a glossy varnish over them so they look like, the old school porcelain pieces. But I wanted to spray them first to make sure that all of the paint is set and none of it's going to bleed when I put the gloss coat on. Especially that kitty cat one, because I've decided I'm sending that to my Halloween swap partner. So I'm not really worrying about trying to hide brush strokes or anything like that, because the style that I did with the other furniture pieces that people really seemed to like was kind of sort of like a shabby chic but make it goth. Um, Oh, hey, Casey. Yeah, it's my turn to paint on stream today. Yeah, so it was sort of a shabby chic kind of a style. So if there are visible brush strokes, it's kind of going to work with the style that I'm going to be painting it. You know, I want it to look real sort of homemade versus handmade. So I'm just going to paint as much of this as I can and then set it aside to dry while I paint my other stuff. How much of this I'm going to be able to paint while I wait for it to dry. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to do the runners because it's going to need something to sit on while it dries. But I think I can do everything else pretty much. But I'm going to do these little support beams here before I do the actual legs, just so I have something to hold on to while I paint. Oops. Find a good place to hold on to. Get this back one. feel like this is kind of an awkward piece to try and paint on stream now that I'm doing it. Just because it's kind of big. And my camera, I can't really, oops, I just smacked it. I can't really move it around very much because the cord is loose on it. And if I move the camera around too much, then I have to go into OBS and reset my capture because my camera will freeze. So the moral of this story is don't buy a $12 webcam on Amazon. Okay, so it is taking a second coat without wiping the base coat off underneath it. So I think that if I put a gloss varnish over this layer and then just continue to build up on top of it, it'll be okay without sanding. I think I was right. I think it is worn enough that it'll take the paint without being sanded. I don't want to guess at how old this one actually was, but I'm just going to say that some of the doll furniture I've thrifted is older than I am. So this one may or may not be. But other than the finish being imperfect, it's in fantastic shape. So that will be why I picked it up, because it is a good candidate for painting to sell. Okay. My laptop cam is really good. It's just the cheap one that I got from Amazon that freezes frequently. It also has a little black spot, like right in the middle of it, right in the middle of the picture. That's an actual defect with the camera, because I tried to clean the camera and it didn't come off. Like, even when my finger went over it with a cloth on it, right on the exact spot, like nothing, it didn't get any better. But I'm not going to try and look for it to point it out, because it took me months to start unseeing that annoying little spot. Alright, so I'm going to set this one over here where it'll be safe. I also sprayed this today, my Halloween tree that I found at Target, because as you can kind of see here, it has glitter in the base. I got so excited because I finally found a Halloween tree that's not covered in glitter, and it had glitter in the base. So I sprayed the base so that the glitter doesn't shed anymore. So next week, because it's the first week of October, I'm going to do sculpting on stream, and I'm going to sculpt little miniature Halloween-themed ornaments for my Halloween tree. So that is now all prepped and ready to go. Unfortunately, it does still shed the flocking a bit. That's kind of a pain, but it's not as obnoxious as the glitter, so I'll take it. Alright. So, let me just clean my hands really quick. And the other pieces that I am planning on painting today, I want to finish the little ghosty. So I'm going to put a couple more coats on her bow, and then 1 or 2 more coats of the UV reactive white on her. And then I'll do her eyes and her little cheeks and her little smile. And then I'm going to paint this one, which I put a base coat on. So I'm going to paint the spider webs. I actually may need to put another coat on because I don't know if you can see. It's a little uneven, but I don't know that that's really a problem because it is supposed to be stone, and stone is not like a perfectly even color. So I may just leave it. But yeah, I'm going to do the little bat's face. And then I'm going to paint this little toy box, which I started. But, you know, the white, obviously, it needs a couple of coats because when you put white on top of black, it doesn't look great. So I'm going to be painting that. And I think that's probably going to be more than enough to get done today. So, but next week I'm going to start on these guys along with that sculpting because I'm going to turn them into my logo skeletons. So they're going to get the big old hair bow and then the glasses and the mohawk on the other one. And I think I think I'm going to go hair bow on this one and glasses and mohawk on this little dude. So, yeah, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to paint them up in my signature colors. But I'm going to wait until I'm already doing sculpting on a stream because I want to add the sculpted pieces to them before I paint. So, that dust from the flocking off of there. So I'm going to start with, I want to start with the little ghost. So I'm going to grab one of my small brushes and a round brush. And unfortunately, since I started the bow with this awful watery paint that came with the kit, I don't have a color that really matches it. So I'm just going to finish it. It might take me like 14 coats to get this stupid bow painted, but I'm going to do it. Yeah, see, it's still not even really... These cheap paints, man. It's barely depositing any actual color. Glad I decided to test the paints in the kit on a really small area like the bow, because if I had put them anywhere else, I'd be mad. Like, it's taking off almost as much color as it's putting on. I may even just give up if it takes too many coats and use some of my own paint. Just make it a darker color. Yeah, so that's 2 coats on there, and it's still not great, but it's coming along. Yeah, she's cute. I put the little bow on it because this is one that I was attempting to finish because the figurines in the kit, they're not like super well finished. They have rough spots and holes and uneven patches. And I was trying to sand down one of the uneven patches and accidentally sanded the head a little lopsided. So I put the bow on so that the head wouldn't look quite so lopsided. Um, and I think it's a big improvement. Oh, this paint. I don't know how this paint is so thick and yet so sheer. Alright, I'm going to try and let that dry and then put one more coat on it and hopefully one more coat will be enough. Yeah, like it's so thick that it's distorting all of the details in the bow. I don't know. Good enough. I'm going to set her aside for now. Use my light colored water. Okay. We do the back next, I think. Yeah. I think I'm gonna do the white first because I'm gonna do the letters, the spider webs, and then this little groove. Try and get it to focus on the right thing. It just doesn't want to cooperate. My white. I have an extra brush ready to catch this because it always makes a mess. Okay. Figure out how to with this so that it'll be on the camera. Probably could have sanded better. in here. But it's such a tiny area. I was kind of afraid to really try and get into those spider webs. It's a little bit messy. Shoot. See, that's what I was worried about with this one is, unfortunately, I painted it with a gray that I mixed, and then I kind of ran out of gray of that particular shade. Now that I'm making mistakes, I'm thinking I should probably mix a new gray and just do a whole new base coat. Boo. Oh, okay. Bye, Casey. Yeah, I'm gonna just mix more gray. So it's about that much gray, and then a couple drops of black. Let's see how close I can get to the color that I had before. Don't want that gray getting into my white. Okay, so I think that's pretty close. So I'm going to do another base coat on this really quick before I start painting on it, just because it's not exact. And I do want to make sure that if I need to make corrections, they're not going to be super obvious. Just trying to fix a flashing thing on OBS really quick. Okay, I think we're good. Use this one since I just used it for white. It should be good to go. I probably need to do that anyway, because when I painted this one, there wasn't much of the gray left already when I was using it. So there's some patches that are really uneven. And I was going to let it go because, you know, it's supposed to be a stone, and stones aren't one even color, but they're really uneven. Doesn't show up so much on the camera, but in person, it's pretty noticeable. And I wouldn't have been happy with it. So this dries pretty quickly on plaster. So honestly, by the time I finish the base coat, I can do the bow on the ghost one more time, and then this should be ready to go. So I'm really not even going to lose any time by retouching the base coat. There are also a couple of areas, I don't know if I can see, where I kind of accidentally chipped the paint just as I was moving it around on the table. Which is another reason that I sprayed the other two that I already finished before I put the gloss coat on them. So that just while they're sitting here on the table waiting for gloss coat, they don't get chipped. Trying to find a good way to hold this so I don't put a bunch of fingerprints on it. Trying to go quick so I didn't think quite as carefully about where I was putting the wet paint and where I would have to hold it. Whoops. Alright. So, set that one aside now. Sorry, I'm blocking everything. Just rinsing my brush. My hands are already getting really dry from being wiped a bunch. And I'm trying not to get some eczema. So, give me a second here. Alright, so I think I'm going to do the bow of the ghost one more time. Hopefully that'll be the last coat that it needs. Then I can go back to the tombstone. So, I mean, it does look better. You know, it's still patchy, but it looks better. I'm hoping that one more coat will be enough to make it solid. Try this brush on it. Oh, it's just because it's cheap paint. Yeah, alright, I'm gonna let this dry and then I'm gonna use a layer or two of my good paint over it because this is just gonna take ages. I mean, it's still like taking the base coat off as I brush it on because it's just so watery. This is just awful. That's enough of that. Where'd my music go? Alright. Since I have to get my dark purple out anyway, I think I'm going to do the bat on the tombstone dark purple instead of black. So, silver linings, right? At least now I can do a cool purple bat. Making a mess onto her head. Sorry, Ghosty. My hand is not quite as steady today as I would like. Unfortunately. It's going to make for a bit of a challenge doing a painting stream with a shaky hand, but it is what it is. Okay. See, one coat of that is already better coverage. It still looks streaky on the front, but I think that one more coat of this nice purple will be better. Messaging. I can't see it. Okay. Oh, shoot, I was going to use this same brush for the bat. Okay. So this purple is actually, it's kind of like, it's like a semi-sheer. It's Dioxazine Purple, which is my favorite, and the first coat goes on a little bit sheer, but it builds very nicely. So any additional coats you put on are not going to be sheer. But because it's semi-sheer like that, you can create really cool, really nice effects with it by layering carefully. So I use this one a fair amount with my sculpted jewelry charms. I have Dioxazine Purple and Dioxazine Blue. And I think it's Phthalo Blue that behaves the same way. Making kind of a mess onto the gray. Definitely glad that I mixed up a new little pot of the gray. Oops. See, I just went all underneath the bed. My hand is just not steady today. But I'm doing my best. It's okay, that's why I mixed up more gray so I can fix it. Realized I don't think I've even spoken since I started painting on the bat. Sometimes I just get in the zone. Really loving these little figurines. These are so much fun. And they're kind of turning out to be a great thing to keep me busy. Well, I don't really have much else to keep me busy other than packing. Packing up my house forever and then unpacking because, whoops, we're not moving yet and I need this thing now. Like, I had packed up all of my winter stuff because I figured we were going to be moving before I would need it. And then the first day of autumn hits and the temperature drops 20 degrees. And all of a sudden, now I need my winter stuff. So I had to unpack all of that. And it's kind of not really been long enough since the last warm day that I feel comfortable packing my summer stuff up. So now I just have twice as much stuff out all of a sudden. After I had done such a good job of, like, getting everything packed, I had to take it all back out. Still have a bunch of clothes to go through that I need to sell. Either sell or give away. Yeah, a bunch of stuff like that doesn't fit, and will probably never fit again. I can at least go ahead and pack up the stuff that I'm not quite ready to part with yet, like all the clothes that I sewed for myself that don't fit right now, but are close enough to fitting that I'm just not really comfortable getting rid of them. Because on the off chance that, moving helps me lose a bit of weight, I'm not going to have any clothes that fit again. I'm going to be in the same situation I was in when I gained all the weight, where I just don't have any clothes. And I don't really want to have to start a whole new wardrobe over again. Not to mention, it's just really hard to part with things that I sewed for myself because I made them exactly the way I like, with fabrics that I like, in styles that I like, and I'm very attached to them. Aside from the fact that I just think that they look nice, like I put a lot of heart and soul into making them, and even if I sell them to people I know, I still feel kind of sad letting go of that stuff because I put more time and effort into making clothes for myself than I ever did into anything else. Because I've always had one of those really difficult to fit into ready-to-wear body types. And it's just the feeling of having clothes that fit exactly perfectly for you. It's not even about like vanity or how good they look or even how much time really went into making them, so much as the fact that there's not really a comparable feeling to having clothes that absolutely perfectly fit you. Like, it's just a level of comfort that you're not going to have with anything other than something that was made just for you. So it's not really something I want to give up. Even though they don't fit right now. Just want to do 1 or 2 more coats of this white. This is the UV reactive white. Probably just 1 more coat. I feel like she's got to be pretty evenly coated by now. I don't know that there's any way to get the glow to be perfectly even anyway. So I really just want her even enough that if I stick her under a light, she's going to glow. Oh, this paint is so gloopy. It's not my favorite, but it is kind of fun. Oh, I got some on the bow. Oops, and I'm just totally holding her off camera. I'm a professional streamer, guys. Only the most professional artist here. Oops, I hit my finger. I have to remember that I have a big smudge of paint on there. so I don't touch anything with that finger until I can wipe it off. Okay. My light colored water is turning purple. Okay, let's see, I'm gonna touch up all of these little rough areas around the edge of the bow. Then I'll go back to the purple. Put one last coat on the bow and the bat. I may need to wait for this to dry more. As thick as the white is, it doesn't want to cover because the purple is still wet underneath. Wow, it's 4:30 already. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I'm gonna get to the toy box today. Probably not. Okay. Fix this again. Okay. I think it's good now. I don't know if that even did anything that I just fixed. It was showing that the songs were playing really loud for a minute there, so if it did get really loud, I apologize. I don't know what OBS is doing today. Or any day, really. It's not like today is special. I gotta find another Gen Z YouTuber who explains what this particular struggle I'm having is and how to fix it. These damn teenagers, man. I gotta have them explain everything to me. I don't have any teenagers in my real life that I can ask. Nothing makes you feel older, by the way, than realizing that you are at the age where the answer to your tech questions is to ask a teenager. There was a time when family members would ask me for help with doing tech stuff, and at this point, my answer is, let me see what Google says, because I don't fucking know either. Okay. Whew. Finally happy with that. It still looks a little uneven because it's wet, but in person it's nice, even, super dark purple. Set that aside and let it dry. And we're going to do the bat. One more coat on the bat. He is almost ready. Okay. So, little battie's looking good. Let that dry. Touch up the gray again. Actually, I think I missed a couple of areas on the edge of the bat. Just like on the tip of the ears up here. But I want to get a little better with the purple before I touch up the gray. Just thoroughly make a mess before I clean it up. It's the only way to go, right? Okay. So I'm pretty happy with the bat. Yeah. I'm gonna do the little ghost's face. Just a little drip of pink for the cheeks. Black for the eyes and the mouth. Do the little pink cheeks first, I think. Trying to get nice, even circles. Okay, little pink cheeks. Eyes. Alright, happy little ghosty. Look at that, now that she's got a face, the camera will focus. It was having trouble focusing when she was just white. So, there's the little ghosty done. Put the little ghosty over here for now. Put her over here instead. On my sewing machine that is just off camera. Because it's a little more stable. If I knocked her over after I just got her all perfect, I might have to cry. Okay. I'm going to do the white on here now. I'm going to start with these little grooves. Oh, I have my third water thing over here that I kept clean so I can use it just for white, and it'll stay white. Okay, my white paint was starting to settle just a little bit, so that's better. Okay. I really am just getting in the zone today. Just focusing really hard. But my mind is also kind of elsewhere today. I started watching this new show on Netflix last night, and I got really into it. I keep thinking about how much I want to be watching it right now. But obviously, if I were to put that on in the background, then Twitch is going to mute me because it's, you know, copyrighted material, obviously. But anyway, the show is called Midnight Mass, and I don't really know how to describe it other than that it's really like dark and kind of bizarre and really awesome. It's made by Mike Flanagan, who I love, who is, in my opinion, one of the only people in the industry who can make a good Stephen King movie. So obviously he's got talent. um, I really like his work, so as soon as I saw his name attached to the production, I was like, alright, well, I'm going to have to give this a shot. So I put that on while I was doing some packing last night. I ended up watching an entire episode, even though I was only planning on doing another 20 minutes of packing, and the episodes are 60 minutes long. Because I got into it, and it was enough of a distraction that I was really enjoying myself and not focusing on the tedium of packing. And it was just, oh, it's so good. And it's just really starting to get going. Um, it's one of those that's, it's set on this little island that has a population of like 120 some people. So it's a very, very small town. Everybody knows everybody. And one of the main characters is coming back to the island after being in jail for 4 years for a drunk driving accident that killed a teenager. So he's obviously not in a good place mentally. And then again, because it's a really small island, you have those really insulated economies that when they struggle, they really struggle. So everybody on the island is basically having their own little issues. And then the same day that this guy comes back from prison, this new priest shows up on the island to replace their old priest who had been there as long as anybody could remember. He's 80-something-year-old dude who apparently was totally senile. And somebody thought it was a good idea to send this senile old man to Jerusalem on a pilgrimage. And on the day he's supposed to return, instead of him coming back, this young new priest shows up. And then, like, all this weird, creepy stuff starts happening on the island. Like, in the first episode, they're talking about how they have a problem with feral cats and how there's just hundreds of cats on the island because somebody brought cats to the island and they just bred like crazy. And then in the second episode, every single feral cat on the island shows up dead on the beach after a storm. So, like, that's the kind of stuff that starts happening on this island. And, it has all of the typical characters that you would expect in a teeny tiny little town like that to have. And it's just, I don't know, it's a really interesting series. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm on, I think, the 4th episode right now. And it is a little predictable. I mean, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but I pretty much figured out what was going on by probably... I had, as much as has been revealed, anyway, I had already figured out by about midway through the second episode. But that doesn't make it any less enjoyable. So it's, yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back to it. And then on top of that, I'm also trying to watch this other new series on Netflix called Squid Game. It's a Korean series. And the only reason I haven't really been able to watch that one is that I haven't had any time to just sit and watch. And obviously, because it's Korean, I have to be able to sit and read the subtitles. So unfortunately, I'm having a harder time sitting down to watch that one, even though it is also very good. So I would also recommend that one if anybody is looking for anything to watch. So Squid Game and Midnight Mass. And also, if you have Paramount Plus, I just found the other day a sort of a reboot of the Are You Afraid of the Dark series that I loved growing up. So I watched that. It's only 3 episodes. And it was actually a lot better than I expected. It was really fun and just a lot of nostalgia there. I wasn't, I didn't go into it with high hopes because I kind of felt um, like there's a lot of stuff that's being rebooted these days. Everything is a reboot or a remake or a sequel. So I just didn't really have high hopes, and especially because the old series is just, it's really kind of special to me. It's one of those shows that, being a creepy kid in the 90s, just really kind of was a big part of my developing personality, to be honest. So yeah, I watched it and it was really good actually. I really enjoyed it. I think they captured the feel of the original really well. The only thing that was kind of different about the reboot series is that it's all one story over 3 episodes instead of like the story of the week anthology style that they used to do. So, trying to think what else I watched that would be worth recommending. Um, I've been watching a lot lately because I need to put something on. I mean, I always have to have things on in the background anyway because intrusive thoughts are a thing. um, but I've been watching more than usual because I really need things to thoroughly distract me mentally while I'm packing so I don't get sidetracked with just looking at and messing around with the stuff that I'm finding and uncovering as I pack. Um, but most of what I watched has not been good, or at least not good enough that I would want to recommend it. I've also just been watching a lot of YouTube. um, just because I can put stuff into a list, like what are they calling it now? A queue. I can put up a queue of like 15 videos and just sit back and do my packing and it'll just play. As opposed to having to go through my watch list on various streaming sites trying to find a movie every, 90 minutes to 2 hours. Um, so I've kind of been watching a lot of the same channels just over and over again on YouTube, just binging. And I was watching Jake Monroe, who is a goth YouTuber. And I don't remember how I found his videos, but yes, I do, because I was watching Cinnamon Toast Ken do a reaction to that viral video where the goth girl gets made over into, I don't even know what to call it, just awful. It was just awful. They tried to make her into a normie, and it was, oh my god, it was so bad. Like, they gave her this really shitty, cheap wig that they didn't even put on her head properly, and an orange fake tan, and oh, it was awful. And somebody in the comments mentioned, oh, if you want to watch goth YouTubers, you should go check out Jake Monroe. So I went and checked out his channel, and I don't know how I never found him before, because I mean, he's such like a happy, like positive kind of guy, which I know a lot of people think that goths are all doom and gloom, but you know, he talks about that a lot, about how it's such a stupid misconception because goths are just people. And there's going to be the same amount of like doom and gloom and happy people in the goth community as there is in any other subculture. So I've been watching his videos and I really like him. I like his humor. I like seeing his different makeup styles every time. 'Cause he has different makeup in every video and it's all so good. Who else have I been watching? Been watching Rolly. He does all the like piercings gone wrong reactions, which I just find hilarious. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing with my time every day. Exciting stuff. Okay. So the spider web's done. I'm going to do the letters. No, I'm going to do the grooves on the back and then I'm going to do the letters. And then I'm going to touch everything up. I think. You know what? I want to do the bat's face before I touch everything up. So I can just touch it all up at once. And then that'll be it for the day. So I'm going to set this here for a second because my music just went off again. Okay. So I'm going to do the grooves, I'm going to do the little crack, and then I'm going to go through and touch everything up. No, grooves, crack, bat face, then touch everything up. I think. If I don't lose my mind first. I'm very tired. I'm way out of the groove on that one. I have to touch that up. I don't really need these to be perfect because they're just going to be for me. I'm just keeping them. I'm not selling them. I like them. I'm going to use them in my own displays and my doll photos. By the way, JoAnn's had the kids' craft kits, which includes the figurine kits, for I think it was 40 or 50% off this week and last week. So I don't know how long they've had that sale. I just happened to notice it. But if anybody was wanting to grab one of these figurine packs, even though the paint and brushes in them are garbage, the figurines are really cute. And at 50% off, that's a pretty good price. It's a better price than I got mine for, but I was impatient. do the lettering while I wait for that to dry. Actually, I should do the P first because I'm going to be working top down. Okay. Got back onto the gray. Oh, that's not really noticeable. Oh, no other commenters today, huh? Slow day. It's really hard to get this positioned just right so that it's on camera, but I can still clearly see what I'm doing enough to not make a mess. Ah. Of course, just as I say that, I make a mess. Do I have any non-comment lurkers today? Anybody wants to say hi for the first time? Anybody want to make their own recommendations for spooky things to watch? It is getting to be that time of year where all of the streaming services start putting out the spooky content. My favorite time of year. Not just because of that, obviously, but that is a nice bonus. I'm also a fan of watching all of the plants die that have spent half of the year tormenting me. As somebody who is allergic to basically everything that grows, most of the year it's a miserable experience for me to be outside. I'm also extremely susceptible to heat and sun sickness, so just looking forward to being able to be outside in general. I want to put a second coat on the spider webs. And then do the same for the letters. Uh-oh, my music's gone again. I don't want to make the spider webs like absolutely perfectly neat, because I'm actually going to cover them in silver. Well, not cover them, but I do want to go and put like a layer of silver on the top. So I really just need to get all these dark spots filled in so that when the silver goes on, it'll be nice and even. It's alright, I'll fix that with the gray in a second. White on the bat wing. Shaky hands. Do this little crack up here. Alright, I'll touch it up with gray as soon as I'm done. Fix that little spot here. Alright, another coat on the letters. Brush is getting a little gunky. Too wet now, whoops. Brush is just not cooperating today. Doesn't help that my paint keeps trying to dry up. I'm trying to work more quickly because my paint is drying and it's just not working. No, that was too much paint. silver out because I think I want to do the bat's eyes with the silver too. And the spider webs. And then I will do the bat's cheeks and touch everything up. And then that'll be it for the day. Which is good. It's 5:40. Alright, so I'm going to try and get in here and do just the irises. Fix that. Oh no. Oh, that silver is just running everywhere. Oh no. That was a bad idea. Alright, I'm going to do this. Just dab it off. And repaint that with the purple. Maybe I'll do like a yellow or something for the bat's eyes. Oof. That was just a good theory, but in practice it did not work. Okay. Try and do the webs instead. So let me start on the back one in case I hate it, and then I can just... I don't know if that's even gonna really look all that metallic. Shoot. I kind of hate it. Damn it. Alright, I'm going to redo it with white because I hate how that looked. I don't know why. I really hated it. So we'll just go back over that. Pretend that never happened. need to get in here. Okay. So that should be nice and dry for me to attempt another eye. I'm going to try yellow instead. Okay, here we go. I just got some yellow right there because it was on my hand and I didn't notice. Okay, crisis averted. Here we go. I'm a little bit over with that one. Okay, let me... Alright, I'm gonna have to be off camera because this is dark on dark and I literally cannot see what I'm doing unless it's right in front of my face. A little spot of red for the mouth. So I'm not even going to bother to squirt it. Okay. So there's that. I'm going to do his little cheeks. If I can get this little fuzzy off of the face. I think it's a bunny hair that got painted into the purple. There we go. Okay. Oops. There's the red because I just put my arm on it. Scratch that? Yeah, I did. I scratched it a little bit. It'll be okay though. Okay. So that's done. I'm gonna do the cleanup and then call it a day. finish now. This is where having all of these really fine brushes for painting tiny doll faces definitely comes in handy. Oops. Too far down into the little groove. Oh, I just painted the top of my webcam. I had a little spot that just wanted to stay messy. Keep painting over it and dark streaks keep coming out. Oops, I forgot to do this bit. Alright. Nearly there. Which is good because my hands are starting to get real shaky. So it's just about time to take a break. I'm just going to keep going until I finish. And then that'll just be probably just be done for the day with doing artsy things, because I still have more packing to do in the room I was working on yesterday. I have to get all of my DVDs and stuff boxed up. Not the ones behind me to the side, by the way. The ones in this room are like the communal DVDs. I have my own personal collection, which is primarily horror movies, because everything that's not horror I just share with my mom. We have one copy between the two of us. But she's not really as into horror movies as I am. So her horror collection is much smaller than mine. Just trying to figure out the best angle to get into these letters. I feel like the bat needs a nose. I keep looking at it and I'm like, it's missing something. I think it needs a nose. I'm gonna give it a little pink nose. Actually, put one little dot in here. Alright, letters are looking good. Let me give the bat a little pink nose, and then I'm going to call it a day. There, okay. So there's that one done, and I'm kind of in love with it. So I'm going to leave it alone exactly as it is before I do something that makes me hate it. So there's the back. There's the front. And here's the ghosty again. Okay. So that's going to be it for today. I'm going to take those outside and spray them next so that I can get to putting the glossy coat on all of the finished figurines. Let's see. Thursday is my game stream again. I'm not actually sure what I'm going to be playing yet. Probably going to go back to Limbo. more than likely I'll go back to Limbo. I don't know. Maybe I'll make another attempt at streaming Phasmophobia. We'll see. I might just do some more random games. I also kind of want to finish Stories Untold, which I started a while ago, and didn't get to the last 2 episodes. So maybe I'll do that. It may be a short one this week because I don't want to be up too late playing games on Thursday night. I want to get good rest because Friday night, I'm going to be staying up late watching videos for Blythefest Australia because that's their Saturday, and all of the programming. I think it's this week. Maybe, wait, I think that might actually be next week. So maybe I won't do a short stream on Thursday. I don't know. I'll figure it out. May or may not be looking at houses. This weekend, for sure, is BlytheCon UK. So I have a friend actually coming over to stay for the night on Saturday. So we're going to do that during the day. We're going to watch Blythefest videos and do doll things. Probably watch some movies and stuff and just do normal people shit for a little bit. So I'm looking forward to that, but I have to get like massive amounts of packing done because my house is full of boxes and I have nowhere for an extra person to hang out right now. So yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of packing. I'm trying to think what else. May or may not be looking at more houses early in the day over the weekend. It depends on what comes up. Nothing has come up. We saw 6 houses last weekend and they were all duds. There were actually a couple that would have been good, but one had a really small shower. And since the shower is like the main reason we have to move, a small shower that we're not going to find usable is basically, it's a deal breaker. So yeah, it had a small shower and a terrible yard. The yard was awful. Like, not just size-wise, it was really uneven, like to the point where a couple of crippled old ladies would probably break their ankles trying to walk through it. So obviously it's not the right house for my mom and I. The first one we looked at, we actually both really loved, but the second you walked in, it just reeked. It smelled so bad. They were a smoker house, clearly, and they had apparently, by the smell, been smoking in the house for probably decades. So, I mean, I didn't trust that we'd be able to get that smoke out of the house enough for it to be safe for me to live in, because obviously I have my lung issues. I take a steroid inhaler and an oral asthma medication twice a day because my asthma is not well controlled. So, like, being in a house like that with a mask on is one thing, but moving into a house like that, even if you get all of the smell out, like, I'm just not sure the air in the house is ever going to be safe because the secondhand smoke gets into, like, the walls and the floors, and unless you, like, gut the house, I just don't think that you can ever get decades worth of cigarette smoke out of a house. Yeah, so that, unfortunately, that house would have been just about perfect. Like, it needed a little tiny bit of work, but it was one of the better houses that we've seen in the months and months and months that we've been looking. Like, that was top 5 houses, except that it just smelled so bad. So that was really upsetting, and it kind of set the tone for the day, because every other house after that was a disappointment. I mean, The first house was just, it was so nice. It just smelled awful. And it just makes me so angry. Like, it's such a waste of a really gorgeous, well kept, otherwise very well taken care of house that they smoked in it and ruined it. Um, anyway, I don't want to think about it too much because it's going to make me angry again. So, we're hoping that more houses will come up. They always seem to come up right before the weekend, so I don't really know yet what that's going to look like. But we are going to try and see more this weekend, if more come up. I mean, at this point, it's just getting really hard. It's really getting hard. I want to move. I want it to be over with. And it's getting increasingly clear that we need to move because I'm having a harder and harder time getting in and out of the tub that we have. Like, we can't, the way that our bathroom is, we can't even put like a grab bar on the wall or anything. So I don't have anything stable to hold on to get myself over the edge of this tub. Like, even when I'm just taking a shower, I use a shower chair, but I don't have anything to grab onto outside of the tub to get out of the shower chair. So having to climb over that side of the tub, I have to like turn myself around and hold the handles on my shower chair as I climb over the side. And it's just, I feel like it's an accident waiting to happen. And it's just making it more and more clear that because we can't make the renovations needed in our current house, we really do need to move, which just makes it all the more disappointing that we can't find a house. So, I don't know, just keep the good vibes coming for the house. We're going to try and look this weekend again. Maybe we'll finally find the one, who knows. So, yeah, I don't really know what my Thursday stream's going to look like yet, because it's going to depend on what the weekend plans are. If we're going to be doing a whole bunch of houses, I really need to be starting and stopping my stream earlier so I can go to bed earlier and get a better sleep, because I really burned myself out over the weekend, this weekend. I think that's it. My voice is actually starting to go, and I barely even talked this stream. Yeah, so I think that's all I need to say. My music has stopped. I'm going to take that as my cue. I'll be here sometime on Thursday. Just, keep an eye out. I'll be here doing something at some time later to be determined. So thanks for watching. I hope it was enjoyable. See you later in the week, and again next Tuesday for more art things. That's it. Bye.